The story begins with a girl named Mallory who is on a road trip. Actually, Mallory is getting married in 2 weeks, and before the marriage, she wants to take some time for herself and travel alone. For this, she has planned a long trip, which is to end in Denver, where her marriage is going to take place. On the way, Mallory's sister Ella calls her. Mallory tells her that she liked this place very much and that she will go by a longer route so that she can enjoy the beauty of this place. During the conversation, it seems as if Mallory is not happy with this marriage, but when Ella asks repeatedly, Mallory denies it and says, "I am very happy." Later, Mallory's fiancé Brad's voice message reveals that Brad is so busy with his work that he is not able to give time to Mallory, which upsets her. Maybe this will remain the same even after marriage. Now, going ahead, she sees a board with signs for 2 paths. Mallory decides to take the longer route. It was a path that passed through the mountains where very few people traveled. Mallory was moving forward on that path, listening to her favorite songs, but suddenly, the car broke down, so she had to stop on the side. Mallory tries to call the helpline, but there was no signal in that area. Then a boy named Kristen comes there, who understands that Mallory needed help after seeing her car parked there. Kristen fixes her car, which makes Mallory very happy. After the car is fixed, Mallory starts leaving from there. Then she thinks that maybe she should give Kristen a lift, because he helped her. On the way, both of them talk. Mallory tells him about her sister and Brad. She asks Kristen where he is going. Kristen tells her that he has gone hiking and is staying at a nearby motel. Hearing this, Mallory thinks she should also spend the night in a motel, so she turns toward the motel instead of Denver. On the way, Kristen says, "How strange it is that 2 strangers are meeting on this unknown road. Is it a coincidence or fate?" Mallory does not understand his words. She thought that maybe Kristen was flirting with her, and she did not like it. Then Kristen started saying some inappropriate things, which shocked Mallory. She stops the car on the side and tells Kristen to please get down from her car. However, Kristen had other intentions. He suddenly takes out a knife, threatens Mallory, and tells her to keep driving. Mallory gets scared. She asks nervously, "Why are you doing this?" Kristen replies, "You yourself gave me a lift. Maybe you are running away from your marriage, and now fate has brought us together here." Mallory is very scared, so she continues driving under Kristen's threat. After going a little further, she decides to turn the car sharply on a curve. Mallory had a plan because Kristen had not put on his seatbelt. She was thinking she would push him out of the car at this turn. But Kristen sensed Mallory's intentions. He tried to stop the car. A scuffle broke out between the two, and during this, the car went out of control. The car fell straight into a deep ditch and overturned badly. When Mallory regained consciousness, she saw that her leg was stuck between the seats, and she was badly injured. She tried a lot to free her leg, but it was of no use. Gathering courage, Mallory tore her shirt and tied it around the wound so the bleeding would stop. Then Mallory's eyes fell on Kristen. He had also fallen down but had only minor injuries. Otherwise, he was absolutely fine. Seeing Mallory in such a condition, Kristen started laughing mischievously. His laughter increased Mallory's pain and helplessness even more. Mallory started begging him for help, but Kristen made fun of her and left her all alone. She knew very well that there would be no one to help her in this deserted place, and that if her bleeding did not stop, she might die here. After Kristen left, Mallory started shouting loudly for help in panic and restlessness and repeatedly blew the car horn, but no one came to help her. Slowly, darkness started to set in, and the cold increased with the chilly winds. Mallory was shivering badly, but she had only one jacket, which she wore to protect herself from the cold wind. Turning on the car heater gave her some relief in the silence of the night. Mallory hears a strange sound, as if some wild animal is around. Panicking, she turns on the car's headlights, so the animal will run away. Somehow, Mallory spends this scary night. In the morning, when Mallory wakes up, she feels ants crawling on her injured leg. She quickly removes them and drinks the water she had left. Only a few sips were left. Meanwhile, Mallory notices Kristen's wallet, which he had left behind. Mallory tries to understand something by looking at the wallet. After a while, Kristen returns with food and water in his hand, but he does all this only to tease Mallory. Sitting in front of her, he eats his food happily and mocks Mallory's restlessness. However, Mallory was very hungry and thirsty. Then he tells her that he is going to drink water from an abandoned house nearby. Mallory was trapped badly. Another day passes in pain and loneliness for her. This time, Mallory decides that if she cannot get out of here alive, then at least Kristen should be punished. So, she writes all the details of Kristen on a piece of paper and leaves a message. "My name is Mallory. If anyone gets hold of this message, then know that this man is my murderer." After writing this message, Mallory feels that her courage is slowly breaking down, but still, there is a hope left in her to live. At night, Mallory feels cold again. So she puts on her sari, but the cold becomes very severe due to the heater not working. Mallory finds a lighter in the car. With its help, she sets fire to the CDs and magazines lying in the car. After this, she falls asleep. At midnight, a lot of rats enter her car. She gets very scared seeing them and tries to kill the rats with her keys. Now, since she had not eaten anything for a long time, hunger overpowers her, so she decides to eat a dead rat. Instead of water, she has to collect her urine in a bottle and drink it. After this, she goes to sleep. The next morning, Mallory wakes up to the vibration of her phone. She is very happy to hear this because she thought her phone was broken. She picks up her phone with great difficulty, but before she could do anything, Kristen comes back. Mallory quickly hides her phone. Kristen was a crazy person who loved to see people in pain and suffering. It gave him peace, and whenever he did something bad to someone, he made them feel that all this was happening because of their fate. Here, Kristen tells Mallory that he is busy repairing the signboard he had broken on the road during the accident so that no one suspects there was an accident there. He brings some stuff in a bag and says, "This is for you." Then Mallory's phone rings again, and Kristen realizes that she has a phone. He tries to snatch it. Mallory attacks him with a knife, but it is of no use. Kristen snatches the phone from her and breaks it, which crushes Mallory's hope. Kristen tells her that the owner of the house he was staying in has returned, but he has taken them all hostage. Mallory asks him about the bag. Kristen says, "Are you ready to do anything to save yourself?" Mallory is helpless. Kristen says, "Yes." Then he scares her by showing her many scary tools and puts a saw in front of her, indicating that he wants Mallory to cut her own leg with it. Hearing this, Mallory starts crying because she did not want to do this. Kristen feels very happy seeing her pain. After this, he leaves her again. After he leaves, Mallory tries to cut the car door with the saw, but it is of no use. She is exhausted, and due to weakness, she has no courage left. At night, Mallory feels very thirsty. It was very difficult for her to drink her urine. Then luck becomes kind to her because suddenly it starts raining. Seeing this, Mallory becomes very happy. She collects drinking water for herself in a plastic bag. After drinking the water, she feels a little relief. Mallory then turns on her radio, where she hears the news that there is going to be heavy rain. There is a division in the city due to the fire, so everyone is being alerted. Then Mallory hears the sound of a car. Hearing this, she starts shouting for help, but it is Kristen who has come to see her. An idea comes to Mallory's mind. She applies the blood and flesh of the dead rat to her leg so that Kristen feels she has tried to bite her own leg. Kristen thinks that Mallory is probably dead. As soon as he comes close to check, Mallory has a piece of glass in her hand with which she attacks him. In panic, Kristen's keys fall nearby. Mallory picks them up and turns on the car alarm. Kristen tries to snatch the keys from her, but Mallory throws them away, hoping that someone will come to help her after hearing the sound of the car alarm. Kristen decides to take revenge on Mallory. He wanted to take the car, but is forced to turn off the alarm first.
Just then, a police car passes by.
Kristen tells the officer that his car has broken down. The officer offers to drop him in his car. The officer was familiar with the people Kristen had taken hostage. Kristen agrees to his offer and sits in his car so the officer does not get suspicious. On the other hand, Mallory keeps screaming for a long time, but due to the noise of the rain, no one hears her voice. On the police radio, there is a discussion about Mallory being missing for the last 3 days. However, the officer leaves without paying attention. After some time, the water from outside starts filling up the car. Mallory realizes she has no other option left except cutting her leg. So she picks up the saw and starts trying to cut her leg. Mallory's leg was freed, but her troubles were not over. The car had completely submerged in water. Mallory saved herself with great difficulty and managed to get out of the car. After coming out of the water, she started walking towards the forest. She could not believe that she had come out alive from such a dangerous situation. Mallory reached a house from where the voices of some people were coming. Mallory understood that this was the same house where the people were held hostage by Kristen. Mallory decided that she would teach Kristen a lesson. Upon reaching near the house, she found out that the owner of the house had set many animal traps around. Mallory cautiously went to a window and looked inside the house. She saw that Kristen had killed the owner of the house. He had also killed the police officer who had tried to help her. Mallory became even angrier on seeing this. She decided that she would stop Kristen at any cost. Kristen went upstairs to wear a police uniform. Meanwhile, Mallory entered the house and went to a room where Kristen had tied up a girl named Sue. Mallory freed her hands, but then Kristen entered the room. Seeing him, Mallory hid behind the door. As soon as Kristen approached Sue, Mallory pointed a gun at him, but Kristen cleverly tried to snatch the gun. Now Sue also attacked Kristen, and this scuffle led to the balcony where Mallory pushed Kristen down. Kristen got injured, but his leg got stuck in an animal trap nearby. Now he was screaming in pain and asked Mallory for help. Mallory threw a knife at him and said, "If you want to free yourself, cut your leg with this knife." She did the same thing to Kristen that he had done to her. After this, she took Sue and left the house while Kristen died in pain. This is where the film ends. In the film, Mallory's decision to give a lift to Kristen is her own free will, but this small decision of hers has big consequences. It teaches us that in life, every action has a reaction, and we should take our decisions thoughtfully. Mallory's character teaches us that a person can have hope and courage to live even in their most difficult times. Initially, Mallory is in an emotional and weak state, but after the fight with Kristen, her inner strength comes to the fore. Mallory's attempt to save herself without Kristen's help shows that sometimes we have to rely on ourselves because no one comes to help us every time. So that's it. Hope you enjoy the story. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more videos.